Good morning. Hi, Tanya.
Good morning, Anne Marie.
We have a special guest today. We're going to introduce Shelagh Cummins. Hello, hello, Sheila.
Well, hey, how are you? Thank you for having me.
We are very happy to have you because anyone who's been listening knows that we keep on bringing very smart, wonderful women in our lives and in our circle. And when they happen to also intersect with left turns,
Yeah.
brilliant thinking, women in business. We're like, wait a second, those are super special friends to bring in. So you've been on our list from the very beginning. And so we're excited to have you here. So I don't know, what's the best way to introduce you as Sheila? Like, do you want to introduce yourself actually?
Well, I could.
Why not?
I love the word smart. That's not one that I probably would have said myself. So to introduce myself, I'd say I'm the founder and CEO of the
Yes.
Road to Seven, and we
Yeah.
have two distinct companies that we run. One is a coaching and training company, and we help women grow and scale their companies. We meet you where you are. We take you where you want to go on your road to seven and beyond. And then we also have a lending company that offers term loans to women that are at scale. And we're the first in Canada and actually the first in the US as well.
Yeah, I didn't know
And it's
that.
really exciting.
That is amazing.
Congratulations.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Well, and I think what I love is over the years, you and I have made various left turns in our career, and I think we have met
Hmm.
up at certain points.
Yeah.
And I don't even actually know where we very first met, but I do remember the very first time we had a meaningful conversation. I don't know if you remember this, like about what you were doing. So, Tanya, I don't think you know this story. So,
I'm
this is like way back in like the blogging mompreneur world, which really is a silly name. It should all have just been business owner who happens to be female. But anyway, whatever. Um,
But hang on for a second, Anne Marie. Do we
yeah.
want to give some context to the timing on this?
Oh, it's years ago.
yes.
It's like
This
15 years
was,
ago.
well,
More than that,
actually,
maybe 20.
this was the time where Twitter was being introduced, and there was
Yes.
Hmm.
this new thing where if you connected this WordPress, this new thing called a blog where you can write and share your ideas with Twitter. I mean, we were there at the evolution of
Yes.
Instagram. We've been through the
Yeah, social
Vine,
media pioneers,
like
I would
all of
say.
it. So
Yeah,
I
it
just think
was
it's
100%.
important to
it
put that in context here.
it is true. It was quite and the world was exploding. Marketing was exploding.
Yeah.
Corporations were trying to figure out what do you do with this new media type and these new now we have influencers, which at the time were called mommy bloggers, which was well, if they were female and young moms.
Hmm.
But that was a whole new generation, which now I guess feels like the olden days of the world in many ways. And it was early digital media and digital transformation for
Yeah.
companies. And then there was a new world of entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship because you could share your ideas and monetize it. Or there we were fighting for the monetization.
That's
Actually,
right.
so maybe we'll go back in time. It's like fighting for monetization will be like Nellie McClung fighting for like the women right to vote. Like that's actually kind of it was fighting for monetization and not to give your ideas and your time away for free.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And anyway, we there was a lot of conferences and like group settings where these original pioneer entrepreneurial mindseted women were coming together. And I knew you through those groups and but I remember there was one particular conference that you were up as kind of like an MC leader. It wasn't your conference, but you were helping someone with theirs. And I think you might have been pregnant or had
I
just
was.
had a baby. Yeah.
Nope.
Were
Pregnant
you
with
you're pregnant
cankles, the whole thing.
and you were still teaching. You were still teaching like in
Yeah.
a school.
Yeah.
And this was kind of like your passion you were doing. And I remember pulling you aside. I don't know if you remember this conversation.
I
And I was
remember.
like, you should not, you were helping the leader of this organization. And I was like, you should be leading this. You have the charismatic, you have the vision. It's very evident to me in this setting. This should be your setting. You should, as you think about the next things in your career, should think about that. And I remember you actually gave me a hug and you were like, I don't, I just remember you were maybe I totally said it out without being asked. So I remember thinking maybe I
Which
shouldn't be
is
telling you
very
this.
surprising to
Yeah.
anyone who knows Anne Marie.
You didn't ask me for that feedback, but I was like, someone just needs to tell you because all the glory was being put on the owner of the
Mm.
thing and not, I was like, there's my left turn in it was that you had some really great skill in this area.
You know, that
And
day was pivotal in my journey, actually,
was
because I
it?
had already been dabbling in entrepreneurship. I had this mommy blog that I'd
Yeah.
monetized, but I didn't love it. I had a tutoring company.
Oh,
I wasn't
yes.
actually teaching at that time. I was home pregnant with our third. And I would be home with my older two that were 18 months apart. So you can
Yes.
imagine the gong show of
Wow.
having two under two. And I would be home during the day. And then at 3 o'clock, we had this lovely young nanny who would come in and take over what I would call the power hours when everybody's at their
Yeah.
worst. And I'd just go out and tutor for the evening and then come back at 7:30 and the kids were washed and in their jams, ready for a book,
Love
and I
that.
put them to bed. And it was like this beautiful glimpse of what could be. But that conference was so fascinating in my left turn, you guys, because I had been doing corporate training for a while and I
Hmm.
had been, building courses. My background, I have a master's in education and curriculum teaching and learning is my
Mm.
specialty. So instructional design, curriculum development. And I had been developing these courses for a friend of ours who took a chance on me. And he ran a national corporate training company and I was facilitating for him. And I just wasn't loving it because I wasn't connecting with the audience.
Mm.
And I'd get good ratings, like he'd get good feedback. But I didn't find it fulfilling because I didn't have that reciprocity because I hadn't lived their life. And that conference was for mom entrepreneurs. And I didn't even know that that was a thing at that time. And I was emceeing. And what I did is in between each speaker, I would do a training segment that would sort of
Yeah.
connect to the next speaker to set the audience up. And I remember standing up there, it was like 9:15. It started at 9:15. And it was just this realization of, oh, and like in the movies, the character has that light bulb that goes on
Yeah.
over their head. And I remember of, oh, I'm feeling them. They're feeling me. They understand what it's like to stand up here 5 months pregnant. Most of them have already been there. They're actually listening to what I have to say, and I can tell stories because I never realized that I was running a business. I just
Mm.
was making money so I could stay home with my kids. So it was an absolute pivotal
Yeah.
moment, and you
Amazing.
were one of the instrumental pieces that day that gave me permission to go and explore what this whole
I
avenue
didn't know
would
that.
look like.
I didn't
And
know
that
that was
that
going on
was
in your brain. I was
yeah.
just like, this woman is very talented in what she's
Thank you,
doing and
thank
should
you.
pursue this.
Yeah.
And I'm not that good at sometimes keeping my mouth shut. So I'm glad and so
Well, I
that
also
was
got my
the
first
thing.
client that day.
You did.
Yeah, someone
Oh.
came up to me and she was like, Sheila, I'd like to hire you. And I was like, oh, you want me to speak to your group?
Mhm.
Well, what about? And she was like, no, I actually want you to help me with sales. And I was like, I've never done that before. I don't know what that looks
Mhm.
like. And so I was like, let's try it. And so there was no money exchanged and I helped her and she's now running a $27 million company.
That's amazing.
Isn't that fun?
So is
Amazing.
it,
So
but
two
So
so what
things
fun.
I, so
happened
you
that
make
day.
that a practice. Okay. Yeah. So what were, so those two things,
Hmm.
did they were
Where
the
you're
seed,
pivotal.
they were
Yeah,
the
it was
seeds, the road to seven.
permission. And it was, hey, okay, let me just try my hand at this. Let me see what it's like.
Hmm. Yep. And I think there's a real, what I love about that kind of listening to both of you, is the intuition in when you feel that connection. So you were feeling the energy in the room, right?
Yeah.
You just know, what do they call it? They call it like, oh, there's a name.
Kismet.
Yeah, but there's a name for it where when you're in your groove, basically. I
Yeah.
mean, I guess at
Flow,
the
your
basis, but
flow.
there, your flow.
Yeah.
Yes. When you're in your flow. And it, so clearly you came in, you're
Yeah.
in your flow, you're feeling the energy back and forth. And obviously Anne Marie is feeling that as well, right? And I
Mm.
think the other important thing, and it's a great reminder, we've talked about it in previous podcasts, and obviously it's a theme, even International Women's Day and kind of give to gain and whatever. It's really important for people like an Anne Marie to, not to say, but to solidify certain things. If you see
Mhm.
something that someone is doing amazingly well, or you felt something, don't be afraid. Again, it's the permission. And then you add on to that, like, I just need to share this with you.
Mhm.
This was amazing. You should do this. I see that. Even if be unafraid, because sometimes that's a little addition to what you already know that just helps move it forward. I think we can do
Mhm.
that more and more, you know?
So I gave a keynote for International Women's Day this year, and
Yeah.
I talked about how there was something off about the topic of give to
Yeah.
gain.
Yes.
And I said right off the top, I
Hmm.
said, I'm gonna just tell you right now, I think it's insulting for me to ask you to give any more. As women,
Anymore.
we
Yeah.
give all the time.
Yes.
And Anne Marie gave that day unasked,
Hmm.
and it was terrific. But at the
Yeah.
same time, I was open to receiving it. And I
Exactly.
think as women, we get so focused on where we think we're supposed to be that we
Mm,
forget to be open and to listen and to ponder and think and then try
for
and be
sure.
okay not having it work. I had a couple false starts after that.
Of
And
course.
but all of those were what I sort of call my MBA because
Mm,
I learned so much
So
from
true.
each false start. And so the gain part of, the International Women's Day is how we
hmm
show up and how we choose to take mentorship in. And one of them is being open to receiving the feedback. And then one of them is also taking the risk.
A
Yeah.
100%. Which is
And
what
when
we
you,
love about the
yeah,
left turn
Yeah.
in that. Yeah.
when you say false start, I'd love to hear your perspective of a false start because some
Yeah.
people w- a false start is, oh, well, I thought about it and I made a couple spreadsheets and it's not going to work. And
Yeah.
other people's false start might be a fully launched business that just didn't materialize the way they needed. Or some people would say the false start was the first quarter and then I changed my direction. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean
Yeah.
by false start?
Yeah. So um, I started, I kept, so that's a bit of a longer answer. So bear with me for a
Yeah,
second. I had left teaching about a
yeah,
year earlier, and the deal in my house was I could leave teaching and not go back full salary. 98.6 was the number. That's the salary that I left,
yeah,
full pension, full health,
yeah,
beautiful school, great environment to be in. But I wanted to be home with my kids, but I had to still be contributing financially into our house. So we knew how much I had to bring home. And
yeah,
so with every endeavor that I tried, what I couldn't lose is the amount that I had to contribute. And I'm going to tell you, ladies, like there were some months I paid for the privilege of working. Literally every penny
for
I made
sure.
just went directly to the nanny or to the daycare or
Yes,
to
I would
whatever.
say many
100%.
business
Yeah,
Many
owners
it's
of
how
would say
you
us.
that.
start. It's how you
Yeah,
start. So, I sort of got into the entrepreneurial world a little bit carefully. I started a partnership with someone else and we had success with it, but there was something missing for
hmm,
me. So, there was a beautiful segue where she wanted to go and do something else.
yeah,
It wasn't quite working for me. So we shut that down. I
yeah,
launched another company where I was doing corporate training. That's where you and I crossed
yeah,
paths again, Anne Marie. I
yeah,
came and
yeah,
spoke to a group you were running.
yeah,
And again, that worked until it didn't work anymore and it just didn't feel right.
yeah,
And so then I closed that down and I shifted to relaunching under my name and got a couple more certifications so that I could be better at what I did. And then I operated as Shelagh Cummins for years, actually,
yeah,
until the pandemic, where I couldn't keep up anymore and it wasn't working anymore. So again, it's that, okay, it's not fulfilling, it's not working, it's not satisfying. What do I need to have happen to really jump back into joy? And so then it was opening up the brand of the Road to Seven, which allowed me to be bringing in different partners and I for a little bit had a team of coaches that was working with me in my programs and it worked until it didn't work and then it wasn't feeling good, so then I pivoted again and just came back to I'm running the program, but I have a whole support team behind the scenes. And, those transitions were made possible because I was listening to my intuition. I was not willing to be unsatisfied and unhappy. And I was heavily coached through that with someone who was holding my hand and, to your point, giving
Mm.
permission
Yeah.
and opportunities to see what that next step and that growth and evolution could look like. And, even back in 2022, when I finally pulled the trigger on opening a fund that offers term loans, there was something, it was just talking. The universe was
Yeah.
talking. There was signs it wouldn't go away. It's
Yes.
like that earworm that
A
keeps
hundred
playing and playing
percent.
and
A
playing.
hundred
And
percent.
you're like, fine.
I'll
Yeah.
listen.
And it happened actually at my son's grade 8 grad, my oldest son. We were invited to his friend's house for a barbecue with his friend group. And I was sat beside one of the dads, the host, and his name's John. And he was just sort of saying, "Oh my God, I can't believe this just happened." And I don't know how it came, I can't believe this just happened. Our kids are already through,
Hmm.
grade 8. And then I don't know how it came out, but it kind of came out that he was opening a new office in London. And for some reason, I'm actually very shy and I don't talk a lot at
Hmm.
social functions, but something made me talk to him. I don't know what it was. And I kept asking questions. Well, didn't he run a lending company? And his space is very
Wow.
different from mine. And I just kept asking questions. Well, tell me, how did you start? Well, he started with
Yeah.
50,000 in the bank with one
Yeah.
loan. And I was like, okay. And I
Yeah.
said, well, and I just kept asking. And he's like, your very first thing to do is call a lawyer. So the
Hmm.
next day, I literally got on the phone with Andrea Bolden and I called her. She was Andrea Henry at that point.
Hmm.
And I said, listen, this is my idea. What do I need to have in place to make it happen? And how much is it going to cost? So she
Hmm.
told me how much it was. And I, again, just through the grace of the universe at
Yeah.
play, was restructuring a finance loan and had a chunk of change that I could actually take and put into this fund to start.
Nice.
And it covered her fees as well. And I was like, oh my God, here we go.
It's just
But
all
it's
working.
that it just worked. But it was just
Yeah.
that what's my one next step?
Hmm.
Yeah.
But those earworms are so powerful. And I think if it's so easy to ignore them. And I
Yes,
could
and
have.
you could have, but I agree with you. I mean, I live my life by those earworms, as you call them. I don't
We
call it that
probably need a
exactly,
better
but I
name.
really do. We do.
Yeah.
But how you're referencing the universe to me is exactly like I speak about that in all aspects of
Yeah.
all things. And I think Anne Marie and I are very similar in starting Left Turn, certainly in our trajectory. Um, Everything you're saying is so very familiar, and I just think it'll be familiar to a lot of people who are listening as well, but it is easy to ignore those things. I think a couple of key themes. Yes, it's if something it keeps showing up, like pay attention. Like
Hmm.
there is a reason, right? That you're trying to find a flow. But I think the other thing for you, which I'm hearing, is the decisiveness in a lot of what you do, which I think is underestimated.
Hmm.
And people say
Mm.
that, like in general, right? Success is often an action, right? Doing the things. But I say this to Anne-Marie all of the time. I say our superpower, and I think I'm hearing it from you and from others, is the unafraid in the moment to make the decision. You said the next step.
Hmm.
Like, don't worry about the 10 steps. It's like, this is in front of me. This is right. It's
Yeah.
like there's a piece over you, just take that next step and then the next step will appear. And I think once you see kind of that path in front of you, it's like a map that happens in your brain. It's hard to unsee that again. So I think your decisiveness is an important thing for people to understand as well. It's
Thank you.
just
I
take,
agree.
right?
I
Would you
mean,
agree? Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm a type A goal-oriented person,
Yes,
and
sure.
one of my, I think on the Colby, I'm like a 3 or 4 quick start and like a nine
Okay.
and a half follow through. Like you can't
Yeah.
get somebody like I kind of fit the profile of
Yeah.
the of
Yeah.
I'm the opposite, right? So
Yeah.
many entrepreneurs are the quick start and then they don't follow through. I'm the
Yeah. So you're
opposite.
the both.
I'm like the
Because we're
follow
we're
through,
two
but
coins.
to a fault sometimes.
Okay.
But the other thing I think is important to mention here, yes, there's a decisiveness, but I also mitigated the risk as I was doing it. So,
Yes.
of course, there's an element of burning the bridge when you leave the island. Like, of
Sure.
course.
Of
But
course.
I also think that there's ways of taking that next step and mitigating the risk. So before I went into a full partnership, I was still tutoring every night until I
Yeah.
had enough money coming in through the partnership to cover what I would have
Yeah.
made. And
Yeah.
then I
It's pragmatic. You're
I
being very
slowly
pragmatic.
started building up
Yeah.
the next step while I had the current one. And, even with the
Smart.
fund, like I'm at that cross sections where I'm like, all right, I'm ready to go all in. And I just have to figure out how to make the money that I have
Yeah.
been making through my other programs and bring that together with the fund.
Yeah.
That's that evolution. And I think we can we have to be open to change because look at how fast our
100%.
world is going. I mean, Anne Marie and I were just talking about, we were there at the dawn of social media.
Yeah.
Look at it now, and here we
Yeah.
are at the dawn of AI. What's it going to
Hmm.
look like in 15 years? We don't know. But if
No.
we're not open to growth and evolution and looking at what the next step could be, but I think we can do it while mitigating risk.
100%.
100%.
100%.
And when
Good.
you first started, talked about the term false start, and I actually would change it. It's not, there all have been pivots
Mhm.
up the same mountain.
Mhm.
And they're not, it's just a turn. It's like a small turn to get you to the next thing. I want to hear more about the fund because I know
Yeah.
we talked
Yeah.
about with you, I think, when you were first launching it.
Yeah.
Probably it's that long ago now
Mhm.
that I think about it.
Mhm.
Um, and then I also want to hear more about the coaching practice because I think that's just interesting. But talk to us about, so you got the fund started just by this
With
kind
my
of
money. Yeah.
your
So,
money you invested and explain how that works because
yeah.
many people will not understand
Yeah.
or don't know. They haven't probably not that they won't understand.
And Sheila, not to
Yes.
interrupt, but another observation I've had, this is what I do in these podcasts. I just notice things and I was like, you are so very good at naming numbers.
Mm.
Like when you said, and I think that's important as females. You're smiling because I think you know what I'm saying. Like you were talking about the business
Yeah.
that you helped grow and you named the number. I think it was 27 million.
Mhm.
Then you talked about your salary. You named the salary. And I just, in the insights that you talk about this lending, I just think that's so important for everyone, but
Yeah.
women in particular. It's a note and I'm impressed and I admire it. And I've taken note that I need to do better in that area. Go on.
Oh, well, thank you. I hadn't noticed it. And the irony being,
No,
I
it's
Because
good.
it's the
probably was
detail.
like the, slow learner in math. Numbers are actually not my strength. But what is my
Oh,
but
strength
it's
is
the
making
goal.
numbers, right? Like making money is is something that I believe women underestimate.
yes. Yes.
So, yes, I do know the numbers because I've been on both sides of the coin.
Hmm.
I've been on the coin where I don't know how to, buy milk and bread for my kids. And I've been on the side of the coin where I am paying three different tuitions for kids. So
Sure.
I have been and live on both sides of the coin. And when you've been in that place, so close to the edge, uh, your only ticket out is knowing your numbers.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
love that.
It's
Love
true.
that. So true.
There's no other way. And it just comes down
Hmm.
to numbers. And I think we have to remove the emotion from a numbers. Numbers are just
Yes.
numbers. They're just binary. They're ones and zeros.
Yeah.
They have no story behind it. And I
Yeah.
heard somebody say once, revenues, numbers are the only story behind numbers are the story you give it. And
It is
so
true.
one of the things that I am now, 20 years later, very good at is removing any emotion from a number. So if I get a big chunk of change into my
Yeah.
business account, I have the exact same feeling as if I'm looking
Hmm.
at it and it's been zero
Yeah.
for a couple of weeks. There's no
Yeah.
difference in emotion. It's
Love that.
just data.
Love
Yeah,
that.
But I've
it
been
is.
Yeah.
heavily coached to be able to do
Of
that.
course. And it's just there's a nuance that I noted in the way in which you were talking and your
Mhm.
storytelling. So for me, it was an intentional, wow, that is what I take away is when people speak about things, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, that's a little growth area for me to be
You
able
know,
to do that.
one of the things that is a universal truth about business,
Mhm.
but gets torn apart so often is the benchmark of a $30,000 month.
Okay.
And when I talk about a $30,000 month, half the people in the room are like, oh my God, there's like, that's so far out of my realm of
Right.
understanding. The other
Right.
half is like, yeah, I did that on Tuesday.
Right.
And so the
Hmm.
$30,000 month in a company is kind of that cornerstone of where we can shift to scale. Because if you
Okay.
take the revenue and you break it up into different pockets, that gives you, 10,000 to pay yourself. And the reason
Hmm.
I only use the word 10, this is just like arbitrary. It's
Yeah.
Sure,
arbitrary,
sure.
but it's just a pattern. It's not
Yeah.
set in
Yeah.
stone. Because I
It's
hear everybody wants
30%.
to make 6 months, 6 figures. And I'm like, do you want your company to make 6 figures or you want to be paid 6 figures? Well,
Yeah.
I want to get paid 6 figures. No problem. We just need to 3x the revenue in your company
Hmm.
then. So that 36, that 360,000 gives you 10,000 to pay yourself. So you have your 6 figures.
Yeah.
That gives you 10,000 to put into your operating costs so that you can start getting the softwares,
Yeah.
the automations, the
Yeah.
team, the people power that you need so that you can grow and scale.
Yeah.
And then it gives you 10,000 to put into your taxes and into a profit account.
Yeah.
And it just, for some people that cornerstone's 20, for some it's 50. It doesn't really matter, but knowing that cornerstone
Yeah.
is so critical for women. And we either underestimate it or overestimate it. And what we do is we attach a story to that number.
Yeah.
And
The
that's what I
splits
think
are
is
key. The splits
dangerous.
are key that you're saying too. Did you catch that, Tanya? Like I feel like from the very beginning of our left turn, we've always said a third, a third, a third.
Yeah.
Because you have to divide to compensate yourself to run the business and invest in the business,
Yeah.
and then your costs that you can't get away from, like you said, your taxes or whatever, like or
I
a little
call
bit of
it the 30,
savings for
30,
the
30,
yeah,
10. Like 30,
yeah,
30, 30, 10. 30% you pay yourself, 30% goes into your company, 30% gets put away for taxes, and 10% goes into profit.
yeah,
And then we give the profit a purpose.
yeah,
So I want the profit to
Okay.
be, I want to become an investor. I want to pay myself a bonus. I want to go on a vacation. I want to do whatever with it.
yeah.
The
Yeah.
profit has to have a purpose or we don't leave it there.
Or
So
yeah,
I
you don't
think
keep
30,
it.
30, 10 is 30, 30, 30, 10 is sort of the formula that I
Love that.
use with my women just to get them started thinking about
Yeah.
it.
That was a good
So
takeaway for our
So,
listeners.
okay, we're going to talk about the fund in a bit, but I have some,
Okay.
you're talking about, so
Yeah.
in your coaching practice, how many of those entrepreneurs who you're coaching right now, because I believe your practice is pretty much all female entrepreneurs, right? How many of them are they putting those, are they coming to you with those practices in place, or you're coaching them through these recommendations? Are they coming, like, talk to us about some of those women, I mean, anonymously, obviously,
For
like,
sure. I mean, I'm going to just talk about trends and
yeah,
patterns.
yeah, exactly.
Um, I think that there's a pattern to not look at your numbers or know your numbers and just hope to hell you're going to make it work. And I think that lasts and is fine for up to the point that it's not anymore.
Yeah,
And I think again, because of the story we have attached to numbers, a lot of the women are charging rates that are actually unsustainable and they're
like
either
they're too
breaking
low. They're
even.
too low.
Yeah, they're breaking even, they're working at a loss, or they're just, dollar in, dollar out, and there's never anything extra. And it's the profit that's the fun part of this whole entrepreneurship, and it's the piece that's underestimated the most.
Yeah,
Like the profit is where I call them fun tokens because that is like it's not accounted for. It's accounted for, but it doesn't it has a job for you to do what you want with it, whether you want to donate it or split with your team or invest or whatever. It's
yeah,
fun. And there's so many people that are dollar in, dollar out, and I was for years. So it's not
yeah,
I'm not standing on a pedestal saying I'm amazing and great. I'm just saying there's an opportunity to be looking at our cash flow and
yeah,
understanding what we're selling and the cost of us doing business
yeah,
is sometimes greater than the business.
yeah. And when there's no profit, that's when the harder decisions have to be
Well,
made, which is
yeah,
not fun.
yeah,
There's no joy there.
correct. Correct. And so
No.
one of the first things we do is we revamp people's offer because that's the backbone of your
Hmm.
company. And so we rewire the offer, we make it stronger, we look at how to deliver it in a very effective and efficient way. And then we look at the pricing behind it. And then we challenge the beliefs that people bring. And, a lot of women that start there are very few accountants that are starting their own company who understand COGS and taxes and the whole thing. You know, as women, we tend to start companies because we're either sick of corporate, we need more time. You know, we both, all three of us are in the sandwich generation. We've got kids, we have parents, and our time is very precious.
Yeah.
And you know, when we look at the reasons that women start companies, we also have to look at the types of companies that women start. They're service based,
I was
which,
just going to ask you. Yeah.
yeah, most are service based, some are product based, but a service based business, the cost to entry is very, very low.
Yeah.
A product base, you have to have a product. So there's a cost associated
Yeah.
from the beginning. And so the trick with the service based business is pricing can be somewhat arbitrary. So we
Yeah.
go with
She's
numbers
trading
that
her
we're
time for money.
comfortable,
Yeah.
but we also put numbers on that we're comfortable with. And we can all look at our own spending patterns and comfort with money. There are some people who are very comfortable having a bank balance of negative 15,000.
Hmm.
There are others who are very comfortable being dollar in, dollar out every month. And there's others who are very comfortable and are only comfortable if they have a buffer of 15,000 sitting in their bank.
Yeah.
And so we all have different relationships and comfort with money. And then when you bring that into the pricing and you look at it subjectively versus how much do I need to charge so that I can stay in business, we just forget to look at the data because of the emotion and the discomfort that it opens.
Hmm.
Amazing.
So are you, at what point are people finding you to, because I'm assuming, I'm making an assumption. Are they finding you when they're already in their journey and they find a spot that is like touchy and they need some help out of it? Or are they coming from the beginning and realizing I can't do this alone and
Yeah.
I may not have a partner, but you could be a partner?
Yeah,
Good
so there's
question.
two layers to the answer to that. You know, from a price point perspective, our lowest investment is $47 a month, and then
Mhm.
it goes up from there. So, price wise, we can meet you where you are.
Hmm.
But from a company standpoint, I do best when somebody has something already. They just need it finessed and fine tuned. So, I don't really want to have the conversation with people of, well, what are you really good at? What brings you joy? I think there's a
Yeah.
lot of people who do that very well. I'm a structural and technical thinker, and then I have this added bonus of, you know, an emotional side to it. I understand the emotion that is involved
Yeah.
with running a company. So I can come at it from those angles, but I prefer to have something already that's already there, something tangible.
You have something to work with.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then tell us about the fund because
Yeah.
my understanding is that these women that it was also inspired by your coaching women who don't who don't have access to to investment.
Yeah, it actually came from me going to get an investment. I have a productivity planner, which I don't have. Oh, yes, I do, which I have right here. And when I wanted to design and print this iteration of it, I went to the bank asking for a $10,000 loan. This was in 2019. And I had been in business for 8 years. I'd been profitable. I had 30% growth year over year. I'd been over six figures for a couple of years at that point. And they said no.
Hmm.
And I was like, and
Yeah, we've been there
and
too. It's so
yeah,
ridiculous.
it is. But you know, now I understand that a bank has a certain algorithm that they look at very specific data points to approve or disapprove a loan. And the companies that women tend to build don't really fit that algorithm because it was built back in 1950.
Yeah,
So that is why it's not like we hate women. It's not like that at all. It's just
no,
that
for
the
sure.
algorithm hasn't
Yeah.
The mold
evolved.
is wrong. The
That's right.
mold is
The
incorrect.
That's
system
right.
is
They
wrong.
just haven't
Yeah,
updated it. And so when I went to the
like
loan, the answer was no. I didn't have a great credit
storm
rating,
the
but I've
castle.
been
Storm the
bootstrapping.
castle.
Yeah. So unfortunately, the guy who came to work that day was probably still sorry that he came to work that day. But he said, Sheila, I'm really sorry, but you have not been approved. Would you be open to having your husband co-sign the
Yes.
loan? And then I looked
Oh
at
my
him and I was
gosh,
like,
so many
my
That's
feelings.
husband is not on my company records anywhere.
yeah.
I'm showing you a completely viable
We have also
company.
been here.
Yeah. Oh, but then he's like, oh. Okay. Well, what about your dad? Could your dad co-sign? But what's so fascinating is it's my mom who's been my biggest investor to date. When I was really strapped, she's the one who saw the potential and was like, I'll lend you the money. And she's incredibly savvy. And she's like, and this is the interest that I'm going to charge for it. And I was like, totally fair. I'm all in.
Yeah.
So that was
So
kind
she
of
micro
like,
lended you the loan.
she
Yeah.
micro lended to me. And I was like, I wonder how many people are in this same predicament as me. And as I realized, and as I talk about this more and more, I would say 100% of the women who have been very successful in business are very empathetic with what started
Yes.
this fund. So
Accurate.
yeah, how does the fund work? So I'm what's called a general partner or a GP, and I run the fund. Final say of the fund is me. And I'm doing this because I look at it as a pot of money.
Yeah.
I have limited partners or LPs who lend money to me for four
Yeah.
years. I pool that capital and then I lend it out in smaller increments to the women who apply and who qualify. They pay us back with interest, and the interest I can't match the BDC because we're not government backed. This is completely Cummins and Company Capital
Yeah.
Incorporated.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is my company, so we don't have the benefit of anybody else backing us other than the
Yeah.
LPs. So we're higher than if you were to get a bank loan or a line of credit, and we're lower than if you use your credit cards. We come in right in the middle.
Yeah.
And what I love about our model is yes, you're paying interest on a loan, but you're also receiving mentorship. And every 2 weeks we talk. And you have the community that's all are of other lenders who are all at similar stages of business, going through similar challenges. And so the collective wisdom of women in that group and the mentorship make this a very viable business offer. And
Yeah.
so the women who lend to me are earning a terrific return on their investment over 4 years. And we're slowly building the fund. And admittedly, it's at the early stages still. We
Yeah.
need 2 zeros on it for it to be noteworthy, but
Yeah.
that's okay. That is the growth of you
Yeah.
got to start somewhere. And as John said, it
Yeah.
started with one loan. We have 8 loans out and we have 100%
Amazing.
compliance on repayments.
That's
Amazing.
amazing.
And
So what's happening?
our last loan, sorry,
Hmm.
went out. This is
Okay.
one thing I'm super proud of. Our
Yeah.
last loan was granted without bringing in a new LP. So the fund is
Oh,
Amazing.
perfect.
starting to
To sustain
sustain,
itself.
and then we were able to lend that out again. So that was a really exciting
That's
That
milestone.
amazing.
is.
So the every 2 weeks you meet with the lenders or the lendees,
The borrowers.
the borrowers.
Yeah,
So the
the lenders are
borrowers are
welcome to
coming.
join, but the
Okay.
borrowers are where my focus goes.
So the 8 borrowers come together with each other
Mhm.
and they are supporting one. And are their businesses similar or they're just connecting
No, they're
on
all
a
different.
business?
We have we have a school, we have a furniture developer, we have a marketing agency, a therapy clinic, a medical product, um, uh, somebody in the financial space. Just trying to
Totally
think of what
It's
different.
else.
They're
It's
totally
amazing.
totally
different,
different, but the
Yep.
except that they
common
have the same
theme is
issue
they
with
needed a
funding.
chunk of change
Yep.
to be able to invest somewhere in their growth, and they're all getting an ROI on that investment.
So,
So
and
we're
critical.
pretty particular about where the
Yeah.
money goes. Like, we don't really want to lend so you can take a course. I think we're all smart enough, and there's a lot of great courses out there, but they all have payment plans. So I don't think
Yeah.
you need to lend from us, and they'll have a better deal on it. Like,
Yep.
if the most people have borrowed so that they can hire.
Yeah. They
Yeah.
want
Okay.
to, they're in scaling. They're using it to scale.
Yeah.
And so what's the average amount of the loan that those small businesses are borrowing?
Anywhere from 10 to 50,000.
Anywhere from 10 to 50. And then
Mhm.
in terms of lenders, I
Mhm.
know there's like a minimum, and I mean, I'm assuming there's no max. So walk us through that because I feel like our circle could be quite interested in, well, on both sides, both as a lender and as a borrower.
Yeah.
So as a lender, because if you need 2 zeros on this
Mhm.
fund, we want to help you get those 2 zeros.
Thank you. I love
So
it.
so what's the messaging? So women are looking to invest because it's not just a borrow, like they're getting return.
Mhm.
So, but they have to
So
put the money for 4 years.
that's right. So it's important to note that we're not taking any equity stakes in the companies we're lending to,
Yeah.
because those companies are too small, and they probably, with the exception of one, will never be big enough for an equity investment. And I think that there are quite a few funds that are opening for women that are women centric, and they're doing a terrific job.
Yeah.
This is a lot of the women that are lending to me have been successful in business and wish that someone had that this was
Help
available for
them.
them when they were coming
Yeah.
up. And the goal, my goal is for women to, it's kind of twofold. For one, yes, it's giving money into the hands of people who need it, but it's also an opportunity for women to understand and see what earning a return on your money can do. And it's a great lower risk investment than if you were to invest in an equity fund.
Yeah.
So the statistics behind that are 1 in 7 investments will be a unicorn, meaning it's going to go big and you'll make a ton of money. That means 6 of the 7 you'll probably lose money on. We have 100% repayment in our loans to date. Everybody is making money. And I know that there will come a time where something's going to happen. I'm not delusional. We have safeguards in
Hmm.
place for that.
Yeah.
But this is like you can invest in a mutual fund and not know where the money's going, or you can invest in this fund and know where your money's going and know that you are playing at the cornerstone of philanthropy and profit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's
that is where
beautiful.
we want to play.
Yeah.
That's the sentence right there is you can invest in whatever, or you can invest essentially in people's lives and goals. And in the Canadian economy,
That's right.
right
Yeah.
there with someone in a meaningful basis, that woman can then scale her business. Then maybe she can invest in her daughter who is doing whatever. Like
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
whole thing. Like then that 10% of her profit. And then what I also love is that you're meeting with them on a biweekly
Yeah.
basis.
Yeah,
So not
absolutely.
only are they just borrowers, like when you borrow from the bank, they want to
You don't
see your
get, there's none of
financial,
that.
they want your
Yeah.
financial statements once a year, but they're not coaching you through
Invested.
things. They're not invested in a mentorship circle, anything like that. Like,
Yeah.
so you're also helping them become better at what they do.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a
Like, it's a
win-win.
beautiful, beautiful
It's a
circle.
win-win,
It
and
really
it's
is.
so satisfying.
That's so great. Congratulations. That's
Thank
amazing.
you.
How many LPs do you have?
We got a
Like, how
handful,
many
and I'm
lenders?
talking to someone tomorrow. And I mean, I've never had this before. I told her the minimum, and she kind of came back and was like, "Well, what would happen if I doubled that?" I was like,
Hmm.
Yes.
That's
"That's a
amazing.
lot of loads that we can put out."
Yes.
Yeah. What is the minimum?
It's 50,000.
Minimum
Okay.
is 50,000. So, but I think that that's like the more we talk about it and talk about it and talk about it. Like, I
Hmm.
mean, it's a weird economy. Not everybody, people have investments. Like
Hmm.
they are, or they come into money or they come into whatever. Like,
And I think people are more aware, well, I wouldn't say aware. I think we were always aware, but intentional about finding that opportunity, especially women. Again, the story you told is
yeah,
there's familiarity in all of that. We have the same story. And I think that's, conversations we've had as well is under, it was that basis. Like you want to help when you get to a point that you're able to.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people listening to this will be like, "Yes, I've been thinking about that," but no one
yeah,
knows how. Like, kudos to you. Like you've taken it to a point where a lot of us are like, "Okay, wonderful. The structure's
yeah,
there. Like, how can I
yeah.
get in and what can happen?" So I just think it's a beautiful thing. Every time you talk about it, Sheila, I'm like, "Gosh, it's
And
fantastic.
invest,
Fantastic."
you can invest on a personal level. So
Yeah.
like Anne Marie could invest, but Left Turn Strategy also could invest as a
That's
company,
right.
Yeah.
right?
That's right.
So so people who are listening, if you own a company, like your
Consider that
company's profit, instead of sitting in the bank earning nothing, waiting, as long as you're comfortable with the long, like the 4 year
four
Yeah, it's a
years.
piece.
long-term game, and there is
Yeah,
risk involved. I mean, I think
yeah,
Sure.
we can't, there is risk involved.
Of
It's just a
course.
lower risk than if you were going to be an equity investor.
yeah. But I think it's the feeling good part of it, I think, is underestimated. Like that's and how many and I don't know do you know the numbers? Like how many small businesses are owned by women in Canada? Probably enormous.
Oh, I did know the number. It's a higher percentage than men.
Yes, for sure it would be.
Um,
And small businesses are the lifeblood of this
Of the
country.
economy.
But I
Yeah.
think we've got to remember that small business goes from 0 to 30 million,
I know it is
right? So it's a
ridiculous.
huge
Right.
thing. But I
I know.
think that the
Right.
number that I focus on is only 2% of women-owned companies get over seven figures.
Only
Only
2%
2% women owned.
get over seven figures. So make only a million, make only 2% get over a million.
Mhm. So women own the micro business
Yeah.
space. They don't
Right.
own the small business space.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because micro is part of small. So 98% of women-owned businesses are smaller than $1 million
Correct.
because likely a lot of those small businesses are just her.
Yeah, they're
Yeah, they're solo
solopreneurs.
entre and they may have a couple of contract partners, like they may not have employees, they may, which also means they don't. So when you hear all these government funded programs and they need to be just like women-owned businesses generally don't hit that minimum, or
Correct.
they don't have the
For
payroll and
sure.
they don't hit the $500,000
Correct.
mark for a lot of these
Yeah.
large business, like large government programs to self support, which is that's an interesting, really interesting.
Yeah.
Hmm.
The other problem is only 12% of women-owned businesses get over six figures,
Only
12% of
12% get over
12%.
six. So they're
which
less
means
than
Really?
88% are running micro businesses that are
under
less
a
than
hundred
six
thousand
figures.
dollars.
And if we go back to the 30-30-30-10 money breakout,
Wow.
that means 88% of women are paying themselves or
Less
living
than a
below the
hundred thousand.
poverty line. And
Wow.
that is the piece that I think is criminal.
That's my,
Yes.
you're blowing my mind right now. So
Yes.
88% of businesses owned by women are under a hundred thousand. That's because probably, okay, so now I'm gonna brainstorm here. Is that because most historically women are trading her time for money? So she's opening up the home daycare or
Capacity.
she's doing something to kind of bring in extra dollars, but it's still probably her main, like, is it on the side or no, this is still her main gig? We don't
It's
know, or could
everything.
be
It's
both.
everything. It's everything. But it's a business structure issue and it's also a earning issue. This
Yeah.
is why
Right.
pricing is so critical. You can
Yes.
be at, a 100,000 or under and have 90% profit on that.
Yeah, and she's
It
making
can
90
cost
grand.
you
Yeah.
10% to
Sure.
run
Yeah,
versus
she
a,
could. Yeah.
a restaurant that runs at a 2% profit
Yeah, for
margin.
sure. For sure.
So, you can have a profitable company, but there comes a point where you run out of hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she's buying herself a job, is what she's doing.
She's
And
self-employed,
yeah, she's
Yeah.
buying and then
Self-employed.
she's
which is great
probably,
if
yeah,
it works for you.
yeah. And she's probably still the main caregiver in a traditional marriage. And so therefore she's not able to give it more time and
Capacity of
scale.
time
She
is an
can't
issue.
scale it because as you said earlier, you're paying for the privilege to work.
That's right.
So she doesn't have as much flex depending where she lives or what she's doing. But if she's netting a $50,000 business at the end of the day, she doesn't have the money to pay for the childcare. She doesn't have the money to invest in her companies.
You got it.
And that's so she it's like quicksand. She just can't get out of that cycle until maybe she gets to the life stage where we kind of all are in, which is like this midlife conversation when you pop your head up and realize, wow, there's a lot more hours in the day because you don't have as many small children
That's
running
right.
around. So
Yeah.
That's
you're
right.
not losing it. Like there's no hole in the bucket.
Yeah.
So I wonder if there's I wonder if women our age, like in the 58-ish back, like 45 and above, how many of those women are starting businesses? Or if these 88% of them are in those child rearing years. I'd be curious
So,
on that data.
I mean, part of it is just my life stage as well, but in my
Sure.
programs, I would say over 90% are over the age of 45 and they're at that later stage of teen year children.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
But
when they
again,
That
started
makes
yeah,
it. They
but I'm
sense.
started
not
it then.
hip, so I'm not attracting the young 20-year-olds like which is
That's
fine. Like
a
I've been there,
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
done that. I
Yeah.
think we kind of tend to serve people we
Yeah.
can relate to,
yeah,
which
Yeah.
totally.
is where I started with the whole conference thing just to bring us full
Yeah,
circle.
Yeah. Love that.
Yeah,
you've
Gosh.
grown with your audience.
I have.
Ugh,
Yeah.
we've all grown up.
Fantastic.
We've
We
all
all
grown
have.
up. This is
This was
my
fascinating.
brain is going to keep going. So
Thank you, Sheila. This
we
was
need
Oh,
to come
thank
up with
fascinating.
you.
some ideas on how we can help this fund grow.
Yes.
Because if
Yeah.
we can help this fund grow, then, you know, if the minimum investment is 50,000 and the average borrow is 10 to 50, one investment could possibly help five entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
right? So it's like one in five. So so I know you're type A. So what are the goals? So like how many women do you want to help within the next year or two? Like what are you needing to get? I'm going to get on a mission here, Sheila. Like how can we help?
So I will be a $3 million fund in 3 years, and in 6 years I'll be a $30 million fund and ready to sell.
30. I love it.
Yes, I love that.
I also
Love that.
love how you just said I will be. There's
Hmm.
no
Yes.
like goofing around about my
No,
goal is loosely. No,
no, I'm in my
this is
50s. I'd like to retire someday, and this is a beautiful
Yes.
retirement plan.
Yes, it is. It
so
is.
30 million but in 6 years.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
in 2031.
Hmm. And you know, the interesting part about that is if I had stayed teaching, I would have
Hmm.
retired in 2032.
So you just, yeah, pivot your
Isn't that
way
amazing?
around.
The way that
Yes,
it's
that is
all just sort
amazing.
of, it's all worked out.
It's
Hmm.
fantastic. Oh,
Anyway,
fantastic.
So
thank you
Well,
many
for
thank
having
you,
thoughts.
me.
Sheila. This
A
was
pleasure.
great. I could keep, I have so many. Yeah,
Well,
this is
let's do it
fantastic.
again.
We
Yeah.
must, we
Yeah.
must, we must. And I think
Wh-
people who are listening, there'll be a lot of food for thought for a lot of, on both ends, on all ends actually, that you brought to the table today. So thank you about
Terrific.
with that.
Well, I think our next conversation should be about women's resistance to taking on loans and investing in themselves. But that's a topic for another
Yes.
day, not
Okay.
for today.
No,
Ooh.
I love that. Write that
So,
down.
oh, why are
Emery.
they? Why are they resistant? Well, I
I
guess it
know.
depends. As you said, are you comfortable with 15,000 in your bank or negative 50? And if you borrow, then you perceive it as negative. Huh.
That is definitely our next podcast. I
Well,
love
that
Yeah.
that.
is
Thank
so
you, Sheila.
true.
Thank
Oh
you for having
gosh.
me.
I have
Thank you.
more to,
You
I
have a
want to keep
great,
talking, but Tammy
I
wants to
know.
go because
I'm
we
gonna,
have a meeting in 2 minutes, which
well,
So
she's,
do
and
I.
also
I have to
time
run
is
my
important.
my
yes.
my mentorship
Sheila
group.
also
Oh
needs
yeah.
to kind of
Okay.
do
She does.
things.
Okay. I know.
Okay.
I know. All right.
Thanks,
Okay.
Sheila. Have a
Thank
great
you.
one.
Thank you for having me.
Okay.